So, hi everyone. So, we are now moving on our next module, which is about a world of ideas. But for today, we will be discussing only the first section of this module, which is the global culture and media. Okay. So, when we say world of ideas, of course, di ba? Globalization entails the spread of various cultures, di ba? So remember that when we talk about globalization, uh, this is something which actually affects also, okay, the culture of every nation, okay, and the culture of the people all over the world. So when a film, for example, is made in Hollywood, diba, it is shown not only in the United States, but of course you will be able to see that particular film in other cities across the globe. And for example, South Korean rappers, okay, or rapper, just like Psy's song, okay, the Gangnam Style. So that is actually very familiar song. Alam ko, alam niyo yung lahat guys halos, the Gangnam Style. So this may have been about a wealthy suburb in Seoul, but its listeners included millions who have never been or may never go to Gangnam. Some of them may not even know what Gangnam is, of course. But because of globalization, okay, because globalization also involves the spread of ideas, okay, so not only ideas but of course the music, for example, of Psy. So nangyari is halos lahat yon na papakinggan. Okay? Not only in Korea, but of course, you will be able to hear that particular song all over the world, okay? Across the cities or across different borders. Another example is that globalization spread ideas is that the notion of the rights of, for example, the lesbian, the gay, and the bisexual and transgender, or what we call the LGBT communities, is spreading across the world and becoming more widely accepted. Okay, so that's another thing. Then similarly, the conservative Christian church, okay, they are actually the one who are opposing to the right moves from places like South America to Korea and yung to Burundi in Africa. Okay? So, because also of this globalization, di ba, people who travel the globe teaching and preaching their beliefs, okay, in some universities or even churches and public forums, okay? Some of them are teaching and preaching their beliefs inside the classrooms or even as guests of a family, okay, who play a major role in the spread of culture and ideas. Okay, but today, class, of course, since we are now living in this advanced technology, okay, around us, okay, so television programs, the social media groups, books, movies, magazines, and the like have made it easier for us, okay, for advocates to reach larger audiences, okay? So dahil sa technology and dahil sa mga print medias na yan, okay, mas marami ang mga taong nakakaalam na ngayon ng mga different uh, ideas and cultures na meron sa ibang bansa, okay? Then globalization also relies on media, okay, as its main conduit for the spread of global culture and ideas. Okay, so that is what we mean by the world of ideas. Now, uh, let's try to have a deeper understanding pa about the global culture and media. So when we say culture class, culture refers to the unified style of human knowledge, beliefs, and behavior from which people learn, okay, and the ability to communicate knowledge to the next generations. So culture, okay, its development has been mainly influenced nowadays by media. So actually, class, historically, uh, media underwent different stages, okay, of development from the earliest forms to the complex one, okay? So now let's discuss what are the different stages of development from the earliest forms. So the medias have 5 stages of development. So we have the oral communication, then we have the script, okay? Then we have the print media, okay, or the printing press. So we have the electronic media and of course the digital media. So this is actually a picture or an image of the evolution of traditional to new media, okay? So from the prehistoric age, then industrial age, then it went to electronic age, then now the new information age, okay? So this is the evolution of how the traditional media turn to the new information age, okay? So first we have the oral communication. When you say oral communication, so language became the most important tool for exploring the world and the different cultures. And through oral communication, it actually led to markets, trade, and cross-continental trade routes. Okay, so it started with oral communication, okay, which paved the way for markets, as I've mentioned, trade and cross-continental trade routes. Okay, so they become most important tool before for exploring the world and of course exploring the different cultures. And after oral communication, it was followed by the script. Okay, so because the distance became a problem with oral communication, so the script came next, and it allowed not only communication on a larger space and longer duration, but of course, also dun sa permanence in the codification of knowledge, beliefs, and behavior. Okay? So kasama na yung permanent codification of economic, cultural, religious, and political practice. Okay? So the knowledge, beliefs, and behaviors were written through the script, okay? And it made available for transmission to the next generation and to other nations and cultures. So, kasi medyo dahil masyadong malawak, okay, yung distance, which it became a problem. That's why they went to this idea na i-codified na nga naman, okay, permanently itong mga languages na sinasabi nila. So, ginawa na, nilagay na sa script. Okay? Then, after the script, it was followed by the printing press. Okay? So, this printing press allowed the continuous production, reproduction, and circulation of print materials. So, the printing press where access to information was available during that time only to the rich, powerful, and religious. Okay, it became available only to the rich, powerful, and religious nga, gaya ng sabi ko. Okay, so then during the period of the printing press, okay, media development affected globalization by transforming various institutions such as schools, markets, businesses, churches, governments, and armies, among others. So, yun. Through this printing press, okay, mas maraming na-produce at na-reproduce ng mga print materials. Okay? So, that was actually the third stage. Then we have the electronic media. Okay. So after the printing press, okay, after the printing press, uh, the electronic media or the electricity-based communication, okay, such as yung mga yan, telegraph, okay, telephone, so the radio, film, and television, okay. So the wide reach of this electronic media has actually opened up, okay, new perspectives in the different processes of globalization. Okay, so it in terms of economic, okay, political, and cultural processes, okay, of globalization. So these are what we call the electronic media. Then after the electronic media, okay, the last stage was the digital media. So the digital media relies on digital codes. Okay, it can be created only, okay, modified and stored in any digital electronic device. So the digitalized content is transmitted over the internet and computer networks, of course. So much of the printing press and electronic media industries have now actually migrated na dito sa tinatawag na digital media communications and platforms. Okay? So with the internet and computer networks, they are now relied on in the transmission of digitized contents. So kaya mapapansin nyo class, di ba, ganon kabilis yung kumbaga yung pagpapalit ng stages din. Kasi nga medyo ngayon, napakabilis din naman nung tinatawag nating technology advancement, okay? The innovations na meron tayo ngayon. So ngayon, di ba, isang click nyo lang sa cellphone nyo, okay? Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, so yan. Lahat na ng meron sa isang country makikita through social media. And in that way, di ba, this social media is actually becoming as a carrier of culture. Okay? So, when we say media, ano ba yung media class? So, media is actually a carrier of culture, as I've mentioned. It is a tool for the interaction of people with different cultures. So, the real media, tatandaan nyo class, is the people. Okay? So, according to Peters 2004, it asserts that the only outcomes of the influence of globalization on culture are cultural differentialism, cultural convergence, and cultural hybridity. So we will be discussing this later on. The different outcomes of the influence of globalization on culture. But media as a carrier of culture, okay? So media has actually a great influence pagdating sa globalization of cultures. Media is a carrier of cultures and it is one force and medium that spreads cultural flow, okay? Not only locally, but of course across nations and peoples, resulting in the thick and deep integration of cultures. Actually, there is an intimate relationship between globalization and media. That was according to Jacques Ellul, okay? And according to Jacques Ellul, there can be no globalization without media. Why? Because sabi nga, the latter fosters the conditions for global capitalism, okay? Diba? The media actually drive global integration by promoting capitalist globalization, okay? And through media, okay, uh, globalization, okay, this globalization bring countries closer to Western ways of life, okay? And through media also, globalization promote cultural exchanges through mediated cultural experiences, okay? And through media, uh, it actually integrate the globe, okay, in building connections between the first and the third worlds, okay? And another is that the media also integrate, okay, by manufacturing consent and manufacturing content in favor of the globalization. Okay, so that's why media was a carrier of culture. Now, let's move on to the outcomes of the influence of globalization on culture. Okay, so first we have cultural differentialism. Although integration of cultures happens, okay, it only happens superficially according to the concept of cultural differentialism. So cultural differentialism views cultural difference as immutable, okay? So ito yung mga West and non-Western civilizations, when they interact or brought in contact through globalization, clash of civilizations such as that of the West and Islam logically follows, okay? So this cultural differentialism class asserts that a culture affects only the tip of another, but it retains its core characteristic as it always has been. Okay, so yun yung tinatawag nating uh, cultural differentialism. Okay, so hindi naman totally nagfe-fade, okay, yung culture nila. So in the picture or in the image na nakikita nyo, this is actually an example of cultural differentialism, okay, on the way how people dress. Okay, so that is cultural differentialism. Okay, so now let's move on to yung next, which is the cultural convergence. So when we say cultural convergence, okay, it suggests that globalization engenders a growing sameness of cultures, okay? However, the culture of powerful and progressive countries becomes culture, okay? So ano bang ibig sabihin nun? So when we say cultural convergence, it only explains why similarities between and among cultures are increasing, okay? Increasing in the aspects of democratic ideas, okay? Or it can be in language, new technologies, or even in arts, okay? Global sport competitions, among others, okay? So here, as you can see in the picture, so I gave here the example is the K-pop culture. Okay? So, kumbaga, na ano na niya kasi na-invade na nung K-pop culture itong tinatawag na world of the world, okay? So, kung yung mga K-pop na yan sa Korea lang, pero ngayon na unti-unti nang na-invade or na-invade yung mga across nations all over the world. And that is because of the social media pa rin, because of the internet, okay? That is actually a cultural convergence in the internet. Because makikita nyo naman, di ba yung mga K-pop na yan is through social media din, okay? So that is what we mean by cultural convergence. Because of this K-pop culture, di ba ngayon, the teenage Filipinos prefer to dress up like their South Korean idols, di ba? So that's why may makikita kayo mga kabataan ngayon para mga Koreano at mga Koreano, okay? And a lot of them have also joined fan clubs, okay? In support of yung tinatawag nilang Korean Bella, okay? Or Korean novelas or Korean boy bands among others, okay? So at the same time, many Filipino music bands are influenced also by jazz and reggae music, okay? Which actually came from the West, okay? So that is how this cultural convergence is happening right now, okay? Now let's move on to the next. So we have this another which is called the cultural hybridity. Okay. So cultural hybridity is the mixing and merging of cultures, resulting in the creation of new cultural forms. Okay, it can be in language, food, fashion, okay, arts, music, and among others. So when we say cultural hybridity, it suggests that globalization spawns, okay, an increasing and ongoing mixing of cultures. For example, yung tinatawag nila na Kabacano, okay? Uh, Kabacano is actually a Spanish-based Creole language, okay, sa Zamboanga City. And now, mapapansin mo that some parts of Cavite actually exemplifies hybridity in language, okay? So, they prompted by merging of the two cultures na tinatawag. So, this trend actually will further bring, okay, about new cultural forms, not only in language nga sabi ko, okay, but also in arts and music. So if you will analyze class, all in all, okay, the cultural differentialism, the cultural convergence, and the what we call cultural hybridity, okay, so these three concepts or ideas turn actually the wheel of global and local production, which resulted in glocalization. Okay? So ano naman yung glocalization na tinatawag? Okay, so let's define what is glocalization. So when you say glocalization, this is actually the continuous accommodation and assimilation by local cultures of the cultures of the world due to globalization. Okay. So, example nito, halimbawa, yan, si McDonald's. McDonald's expanded its market in India, okay? But it is taboo to eat cattle, okay? Just like yung sinabi ko dati or nabigay kong example in our previous lessons, di ba? Siyempre, in order for you to get your customers' interest and needs, dapat ihahabol mo yun dun sa kung anong culture meron sila. And since eating cattle is a taboo, okay, in India, when you say taboo, hindi siya ginagawa or hindi bawal siya dun sa certain country na yun or nation, okay, yung pagkain ng cattle, okay? So that's why without infringing on their religious rights, McDonald's actually created a vegetarian menu, okay? As well as some of their classics like McNuggets, okay? So yun yung tinatawag nating glocalization, okay? So this glocalization coined from globalization and localization, okay, it is rather it is actually a new concept brought about by the increased frequency of contact among cultures, okay. So this reinforces the fact that the local cultures are not weak, okay, static or fixed, but they are actually built and understood anew each day in a globalized world. Yun yung gustong yung binakang idea ni Jack Lul, okay? That local cultures continue to accommodate and assimilate cultures of the world due to globalization. Okay? So, in short class, all in all, the 5 stages of uh, development of media have greatly influenced, okay, the globalization of culture. So, from pamphlets to Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat, di ba? So, media actually produced and reproduced cultural products, okay, around the globe. So, yun. That's why the increase in cultural interactions generated by media results in outcomes, okay, which exhibited the vigor of local cultures influenced by the local culture. Okay. So, that is how this media influence the globalization of culture. So before I went on to my conclusion in class, I just uh, like to share this to you, okay? That this media actually, okay? Itong media na to, actually marami siyang naiibigay sa atin, okay? We actually benefited on it, okay? But still there are some point, okay, na sinasabi nga na kung may advantages, there are still advantages or disadvantages rather, or hindi magandang nadudulot pa rin ng media, okay? So the benefit of the internet, okay, particularly syempre yung social media nga, it actually lies in its democratic potential, okay? Because since the media did not have access to traditional broadcast media, okay? So yung mga activists against authoritarian regimes, halimbawa, okay? So they try to organize and disseminate information of their cause. So kaya nagkakaroon kumbaga class ngayon, 'di ba? If you are familiar with a tweet, okay, halimbawa, yung tweet from a Hawaii lawyer, okay, 'di ba? A Hawaii lawyer began the Women's March versus former US President Donald Trump, 'di ba? So and later it actually became a national and global movement, okay? And that is because of the internet or the media. So while memes also give a healthy dose of good laugh, actually to many, aminin nyo yung class, di ba? When you are browsing your social media, especially Facebook, there are actually a lot of memes na makikita natin at mababasa natin. And we used to laugh, okay, on those memes. Specifically, the social media actually has split and balkanized people, okay? So, kumbaga, the social media has torn people and friends apart. So, this is actually some of the some portion na sinasabi na hindi rin maganda na naidulot ng media, okay, or the social media. It actually divided and compartmentalized the users, okay? So, depende yon kung ano yung na-experience nyo, okay? So, this has actually resulted in people living as if they were in the echo chamber, okay? Or some sort of social media bubbles. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? Na, kumbaga, it produces herd mentality, okay? So, yung mga tao, the people, they are avoiding reading or listening to opinions, okay, that are different from theirs, making them more partisan or close-minded na tinatawag. Okay? So, yun yung mga kumbaga naiidulot or nangyayari because of the social media and the internet. And because of that, they fall victim, 'di ba, to online trolls, 'di ba? Intimidation, minsan pa nga threat, 'di ba? And hacking. So, diyan pumapasok yung mga fake news din, the misinformation and disinformation. So, yan, kasama yan dun sa kumbaga mga talagang nagiging effect nitong social media na to, the media and the internet. And we also have what we call the Snapchat dysmorphia, okay? So it actually had been coined by plastic surgeons after an increasing number, diba, of young patients who wanted to have surgery so they can look more like they do in filtered selfies, diba? So yan, yun yung tinatawag na Snapchat dysmorphia. So yung iba, it's actually a fun of having this social media or the internet, okay? But again, we need to remember that uh, this social media can actually have, or social media can be a tool and sometimes it can be a fool, okay? So we need to remember that, class. Tools because the social media actually created some wonderful things in the world. So we must admit on that. They have actually reunited, lost family, di ba? Yung iba, matagal nang di nakikita yung tatay or nanay, but through the internet or through this social media, nagkita sila after how many years na magkahiwalay. So that's actually a tool for some wonderful things nga. Then they have found organ donors din, yung mga tao, di ba, through social media. And some also there were meaningful systematic and positive changes that are happening around the world. Why? Because of these platforms, nitong social media nga. But one can only be naive about the flip side of that coin to not notice their downside. Okay? So that's why according to Marshall McLuhan, okay, sabi nga niya, the media simultaneously extend, okay, and not only extend and but amputate human senses. Okay, why? Kasi ito daw si media, the media expand the reach of communication, okay, but dull users communicative abilities, okay. So katulad ng mga oral storytellers, okay, or texting, yon. But cell phones, okay, these cell phones actually provide capability, okay, to talk to more people instantaneously and simultaneously, but with limit the senses, okay? So, kasi minsan, users were being distracted, tapos users nagiging multitasking na, okay, because of this. So, if you want to have additional informations or kung gusto niyo pang may malaman about this one, I can recommend to you a movie, okay, from the Netflix. You may watch on Netflix The Social Dilemma, okay? So you will be able to get a good grasp of how the social media platforms have allegedly eroded the normal social fabric and status quo, okay? So for our conclusion class, this lesson actually showed you that different media have diverse effects on globalization. At one point, it seemed that global television was creating a global monoculture. Now, it seems more likely that social media will splinter cultures and ideas into bubbles of people who do not interact. And now, societies can never be completely prepared for the rapid changes in the systems of communication. Remember that every technological change, after all, creates multiple unintended consequences. Okay, so consumers and we are actually referring to ourselves and the users of media will have a hard time turning back the clock. Okay, though people may individually try to keep out of Facebook or Twitter, for example, okay, this media will continue to engender social changes, and that is actually true. Instead of fearing these changes or entering a state of moral panic, we, okay, everyone, must collectively discover ways of dealing with them responsibly and ethically. Okay, so that is our conclusion. So these are our references. So that will be all for today. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you on our next session. Thank you.